So I have a video to share with you, and it's a little bit different in terms of the style and some of the things that I decided to try. And it includes an insert, you will see. But one of the things that I'm going to do this time is I might talk a little bit in terms of voiceover, but I'm not going to give a whole voiceover. And I may be doing that for the next few videos because it does allow me to more quickly kind of complete the editing process and load them up for you. And what I want to do right now is really be committed to kind of finishing up 2014 and moving along a little bit more with my 2015 project life. So I still want to share, but I just want to give you a heads up that you will find that in some of the videos that I'll be posting, both today and in the future, it may have limited voiceover. So I hope you're okay with that, but I also encourage you to leave me questions or ideas or maybe things that you would like to see. I'm not going to make promises, but I'd love to kind of know where your head's at and what's going on, and maybe there's some things that I can work on, including in the near future. So hugs to you, and thanks so much for stopping by, and I'll see you on the flip side. Bye! Hey, so you see I have my goodies, I've got my photos, I have my insert, I have my journaling, and we are ready to rock and roll, my beautiful, beautiful YouTubers. So I have the invitation to my son's 7th grade graduation, and I'm trimming it down a bit because it is a piece of ephemera that I want to make sure is incorporated into this spread. It's a little bit too large. It's larger than a 3x4 card. So although it's too large, I'm actually going to put it on a 4x6 card, and then you'll see much later how I end up incorporating this longer than usual card into the spread. So once that's done, I'm going to move on to the rest of the spread. Now, I should note that one of the reasons I decided to incorporate the insert into this spread is that I knew I had a lot of photos. I'd love to hear what you do when you have a lot of photos and how you incorporate them into either a weekly or monthly spread. Although I am attempting to do largely monthly spreads to quote unquote catch myself up, this in fact is a weekly spread. And it's a weekly spread because I knew with my son's graduation and the beginning of our family summer vacation, I had entirely too many photographs that I would need to have some extra space. And this week is particularly meaningful for our family. You see, I have a lot of journaling right there on that 4x6 card. My eldest son learns differently. And if you are a parent of a child that learns differently or a child that is differently abled, you know the struggle. I'm sure you've cried tears like I have in the wee hours of the night trying to find the best learning environment for your child. And it has been a long journey for our family, but we finally found an institution, a school that could really meet our son's needs. And they have a 2-year boarding school program, and it's very intimate, but absolutely wonderful academic plan, curriculum. And so my son just thrived and blossomed there. But after 2 years, it's time to, you know, kick gently the birdie out of the nest and let them fly. And so he's learned many skills and techniques. And in fact, he was voted unanimously by all of his teachers as the best all around student. But with all of that success, he now has to use those tools and strategies as he moves on. But this was his 7th grade graduation. So lots of parents and kids, everybody hugging and lots of tears. And it was really a wonderful, wonderful, essentially 2-day ceremony with the awards event and the graduation the next day. So again, because I have so many photographs, and in fact, I will have to put some extra photographs in a clear envelope and incorporate that into my binder as well. I really wanted to make sure that I was able to create a full spread that truly spoke to kind of the depth of emotion that I felt, and I'm sure my family felt as well. And I wanted to have lots of pictures of Miles' friends so that when he wants to come back and look through the album, he can do so and see lots of smiling faces. So that is kind of the background to this particular spread. And because of that, I knew that it was going to be really difficult to have kind of a kind of simple color palette or simple design because there are so many photographs. And so you'll note with this particular spread, there's lots of color going on. And in fact, the kind of quilt-like pattern paper that's beneath that number 7 wood veneer piece in some ways kind of inspired the totality of the spread because it's so colorful and also lots of patterns. And so with this spread, I'm using many different patterns, lots of color, and tons of embellishments, all kind of located in little clusters, both on photographs and on cardstock. So I hope you enjoy this process video, but it is one that's really close to my heart, and I have tried to keep front and center in this particular spread not only the photographs but also the journaling. So again, I have incorporated some lengthy journaling on a 4x6 card, but also there are little tidbits of information that I have typed onto the labels as well and then placed them on various photographs throughout the spread. I've picked up a few new little embellishments and items here and there since I'm no longer getting the Studio Calico kit, and I have so many Studio Calico cards, and really what I want to do is use my cards and just kind of add a couple of new embellishments to my stash and be much more thoughtful and deliberate in terms of using what I have. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. You know, I tend to skip around. It's not always my MO to take a card, finish a card, and then move on to the next. I usually jump all over the place, and that's certainly the case today. So you will see here that I've moved on to the title card, and the title card, I am really hand cutting these little flags or pendants with various colors and prints of cardstock. And so I'm just going to layer these various items, these various pennants on the cardstock in order to create a very colorful title card. And again, you'll know, I didn't pull out my trimmer. I wasn't trying to make this exact or perfect at all. I was just kind of going with the flow. Now, I also have some of this yellow twine that came in one of the Studio Calico kits some months ago. And I have to say, I really do love the twine, particularly because it's this beautiful yellow color. So I wanted to use some of that. And now I'm looking for some other little bits and pieces that I might want to use. And going to the button jar, which I don't tend to pull out that often. I think because sometimes the buttons are too large and they don't fit nicely into the pockets. But I found one that'll work for today. And a little bit of wood veneer as well. So again, you will see, I'm doing, for me at least, a lot of kind of clustering, layering, and building up each individual card. The first little deer, he had a broken leg, so I had to take him back and find one that was uninjured. So, all right, I found a little bit there that I can just add on to the end. And again, I had no idea that was how that 4x6 title card would end up. But I have to say, I really, really like the way it turned out. So this card just needed a touch here and there, not too much. Miles' favorite teacher was presenting him with his diploma and award. And I love that shot of him standing next to his teacher. And I actually do not put anything on the photo at the top right. And that is a photograph of the chairs before the students walked in to sit down. The graduation was outside. It's an old equestrian farm. So many of the buildings have been around since literally the late 19th century. As you will note in that photograph, it's an old building. But that they still sometimes use, believe it or not, for various activities. So I wanted to kind of get that and capture kind of the essence of the school and the architecture of the buildings on the spread as well. All right, so I'm looking for a little tidbit. We took a photo of the school sign from the side of the road. Just wanted to have that there. So it feels pretty good to me, like I might be ready to move on to the second side of this spread. But I need to tuck some of those photographs into the insert so that they're not moving around. So I've put in some additional photos of me with my son and photos with my son and his buddies. And again, one of the things you might note here is that I am just grabbing, random little sheets of paper of different colors, different patterns, and I'm just letting them go together. Like, I'm not overthinking this. And in fact, I will tell you, this entire process took me a total of 2 hours, which for me is amazing, like total record time. That it was like 2 hours, 8 minutes, something like that. I could not believe it. So I think part of it is that I didn't overthink it. I just knew that I had a lot of photographs to incorporate, and despite the fact that I even included an insert, because I just kind of did some cutting with the scissors. I didn't try to trim every single thing. I didn't try to overthink the color combinations. I actually moved, for me at least, fairly quickly through the process. And yet it was enjoyable at the same time. So I'm going back to this same 6x6 paper pad, which is where I've pulled several of the papers already up to this point. And I don't tend, I mean, I blew my own mind because I don't tend to use a lot of pattern paper on my spread. So I was so proud of myself. Okay, so this is one of those Studio Calico cards. The sentiment in the center of the pink card was not working, so I needed to cover that up. But I really liked the pink. It seemed to kind of work with everything else that was going on in this very lively spread. And I had a little bit of, it's like a little teal blue yarn, again from one of those Studio Calico kits that I thought I might like to incorporate into this spread as well. Trying to see if I can add some of those wood veneer pieces, but they just don't seem to be working. And so I do like the kind of label wood veneer piece and decide to use that instead of the circular pieces. I really want to add that piece of yarn. I want to so badly, and yet I just could not make it work. So I had to let it go. Now I've gone back to the Tim Holtz Sentiments little collection. Again, I really, really like them. There's one with lengthier kind of sentences, and then there's one with just kind of words and short sentiments. I think both are great. I actually purchased both, got a really good deal on them, and I have a feeling I'm going to be using them quite often. Now I moved that longer sentiment up to the top photo because it was too long, I thought. And so you'll see me go back and look for a slightly shorter phrase that I think will better fit the pink card that I'm working on. And then I'd added these little stars, little kind of pink stars, which are just too stinking cute, but I didn't like my initial placement of them. And so I removed them and placed them down below on the pink 4x6 card. Now I did make that one photo with my husband, my son, and me into a black and white, and it works fine. There are not any other really black and white photos that I've incorporated here, but it's fine. I'm not sure whether or not I would do it again, but I decided not to worry myself too much and not to attempt to reprint that photograph. So I actually had taken that label and I'd done a little bit of journaling on the label with my typewriter. However, the way in which it was situated on the label, I couldn't get it to fit the way I wanted. So in the end, I just trimmed out the names of my son and his friend, and that's all I incorporated on that photo. And then I had some additional journaling that I wanted to use. And normally I probably would fiddle and fuss and think, oh, I can't add that journaling on that pink card. But you know what? I decided to just let go. And it was so refreshing. And so it might not be perfect on there, but that was okay because I got it in and I decided that it worked. So a few more journaled labels that I'm trying to figure out where they go. Most of them are just giving little facts and additional details about the trip and the kind of inspiration for it. My husband and I decided that we were going to surprise the boys. So after my son's graduation, we all piled into the car. We had already pre-packed the car with all of the vacation clothes. They didn't even notice it. And so we were several hours on the road when they realized we were not headed back home, but rather going somewhere else. And so after much pressure, we finally relented and told them that we were headed to Orlando. So it was a wonderful surprise and really a great kind of graduation treat for the entire family. But at the same time, as it happened, it's also the time of year that my husband and I celebrate our anniversary. This year was 17 years. So the day after, or 2 days after graduation, was my husband and I's anniversary. So that's also all incorporated in this entire spread. I mean, it's crazy. Graduation, trip to Orlando, our anniversary. And so I had a lot of stuff that I really needed to incorporate, and I was trying to find ways to do so. And again, I think adding the insert really helped. I think too, getting the journaling in and then not worrying about whether or not everything was kind of perfectly laid out on the spread, but just focusing on making sure that I was telling the story and telling the story in a way that was going to be meaningful to me today and 10 years from now.